What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Noah Gray here, tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Josh's channel and check out showmefootball.com for more.
What is up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fann of showmefootball.com and arrowheadaddict.com, covering your Kansas City Chiefs. He's Michael Darcy of KC Sports Report. We're going to be grading the Kansas City Chiefs 2025 NFL draft class right after this. Ladies and gentlemen of the Chiefs Kingdom, we are finally back together again, myself and Michael Darcy, to break down the Kansas City Chiefs 2025 NFL draft. Really, Michael, the goal of this video is just to give everyone a quick snapshot view of what we think about each pick, since we didn't really get together at all during the draft. But I'll have to ask, Michael, how was your draft experience this year? What did you do? Did you kind of like watch in a restaurant? Were you just chilling at home? I mean, how was the experience for you? I know you've been to the draft before. This time you were watching it not from the actual venue, but how was that?
You know, Josh, it was good. I kind of wish that I did go out to Green Bay. The issue is that Green Bay is like the smallest place that an NFL franchise could ever be. And so there really wasn't hotels and there really wasn't, any, I guess, infrastructure to take in the 600,000 plus people that were there over that weekend. So I watched it from home, and honestly, I kind of just, tuned in once the Chiefs were getting close to picking. Like, I knew that there were guys that, the Chiefs had circled on their list and had circled on their board. And so when I saw those guys were still there, I was like, okay, like this is when it gets real. And I think that when the Commanders took Connerly Jr., I was like, there is a couple different spots this could go. But you also saw the defensive tackles like Walter Nolan and Derek Carman go, a couple picks earlier, like mid-20s. And so I knew they were probably going to get either an edge rusher or, a tackle. They ended up getting a tackle. But for the main draft portion, I really did watch Friday, or I guess Thursday and Friday. Saturday, since there's so many rounds, I was doing stuff. I tried to, stay tuned on my phone and keep up to date. And I think the Chiefs did a really good job. But at the same time, like, I'm not really glued to the television on Saturday. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. So first night, watched it at home. Second night, for the second and third rounds, my parents and I, we were at Buffalo Wild Wings, and I was just kind of like watching, looking up every few minutes to see which pick we were on, who was getting taken. Really, I think day two, though, is the most exciting as a Chiefs fan. That seems to be where most of the action is for Kansas City in the draft every year. We always seem to have like 3 picks in the second and third rounds combined. So, yeah, it was a fun draft, though. Honestly, I'm pretty happy with the way it went, but we're going to get into that right now, talking about some of these picks, Michael. So if you're ready, we'll kind of jump into each Chiefs pick, and then we'll get each other's take on it.
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
So in the first round, you alluded to it earlier, Michael, Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle from Ohio State, he was the pick, 32nd overall. They actually traded back one spot with the Philadelphia Eagles to get him, Michael. Traded back from 31 to 32, ended up picking up an additional 5th-round pick in the trade. And I have to say, regardless of how you feel about the player Josh Simmons, that was a savvy trade down to pick up another asset in a draft that we think has a lot of talent in it, just to move back one spot, especially because I don't think there was any worry that the Eagles were going to take whoever the Chiefs wanted. They don't make that trade unless they know that for sure. Now, hopefully, Michael, the trade back and the Eagles getting Jahad Campbell doesn't come back to bite, because that just seems like such an Eagles move to pick up the best player available on the board, excuse me. But anyway, Chiefs get Josh Simmons. So I actually want to hear what your thoughts are first, Michael. I've made my feelings pretty clear about Josh Simmons on this channel, and I don't hate the pick. I don't love the pick. But it seems like for a while you could, especially Michael, when we were getting down to like the 20s and he was still on the board, it's like, there's no way the Chiefs don't take him, right? Like, you could see this pick coming from 1,000 miles away that the Chiefs are going to take Josh Simmons. It was like the only name that kept coming up over and over again in mock drafts and articles, linking the Chiefs to certain prospects. It was always Josh Simmons. But what were your thoughts on the Chiefs actually selecting him with their first round pick in the 2025 NFL draft, Michael?
So actually this year I did do something that's a little bit unique. I've never done it before, but I actually got into my setup and recorded my reaction to the Chiefs pick. And I started recording after the Eagles traded up, I guess before the Eagles traded up. But I remember talking about some of the available prospects, and I said Josh Simmons might be in play, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. I might have to walk it back if they end up taking him. Well, of course, they end up taking him. And here's the thing. My mind and my perspective has softened up a little bit over the past couple of days, and I think that's just because I don't want to be a hater. I want to assume the best. I want to, be optimistic. But, I mean, I'm sure that you've seen the tweet. I think you actually brought it up in one of your earlier videos. 45% of the players that suffer with a patellar tendon injury never end up playing football again. 45%. That is a very scary number. And Josh Simmons is coming off of a patellar, tendon tear. And he's also someone that, I don't want to say if it was a different draft and he wasn't hurt, he would have been a top 5 pick. And I think we can all acknowledge that. The issue is you can't just disregard that type of injury. But again, they're taking a big risk. It's got the opportunity to be a very high reward, but you can't just disregard the risk. And so I think that it's a good pick. The question is, can he stay healthy? Can he even, be a viable option for the future? And I think the biggest reason I was upset in the moment is because he doesn't help you this year at all. He's a 2026 player. Like he's not going to play a snap in 2025. And if he does, things have gone very wrong.
Yeah, the other thing I thought about afterwards too is that because he basically does not help you next year, you don't even really get the benefit of having the 5th-year option if you're only getting 4 years out of him. Usually you would love to have that player for a 5th season, with the 5th season being cheap. But in the case of Josh Simmons, it looks like he's still only going to be 4 years on that rookie contract, actually helping the team, right? So I share your same concerns, Michael. The thing is, I see a lot of Chiefs fans disregarding the injury, and I just don't get it because, like you said, torn patellar tendon, almost half the guys that get them, especially big guys, end up not coming back, and most, if not all of them, end up not coming back the same player, which is the more concerning part of this all. The Chiefs say the knee looks good. They obviously don't take him if they don't think it looks good, but we still haven't even seen him on a football field. We've only seen him at his pro day moving around and, whatever the Chiefs were able to find out during his top 30 visit. I just think, man, the fact that they took him in the first round, they better be damn sure that it's going to work out, that he is the guy at left tackle. And I understand the logic behind the pick. I do. We usually, picking at this part of the draft, don't get a chance at a player like this, at a talent like this. Usually these guys aren't available around here. So I get it from that perspective, and they're taking a shot. But I see a lot of Chiefs fans running around celebrating like this is some slam dunk home run pick left tackle of the future. There was a lot of hurdles for Josh Simmons to clear before we even get close to that. And I just think a lot of people are disregarding it. Like, he has to get healthy. Luckily, it's a good situation because he's not being expected to start from day one. He can kind of take this year to recover, get that knee back up to strength. But yeah, I'm not super thrilled. I wasn't thrilled at the pick because of the patellar tendon injury. And I actually have the tweet still in my layouts here, so I'll just put it up there now. This is from Jesse Morse, who you guys have probably seen him on social media before, breaking down player injuries. But he says the risk for a patellar tendon injury was higher for offensive linemen compared to other position groups, and the return to play rate for these injuries was greater than that for or talking about quadriceps injuries versus torn patellar tendons. And then he goes on to say, that means 45% of NFL players who suffer a torn patellar tendon tear never return to the field, never mind return to previous level or elite level. That's scary, Michael. That's really scary to me that the Chiefs just spent the first round pick on this guy. We have no idea what he looks like after the injury. But again, I understand the logic behind the pick. And if the Chiefs think they got their left tackle the future, cool. I hope they're right.
Yeah, no, I agree. But at the same time, There's a reason that 31 other teams didn't
Exactly.
draft him. Like,
exactly.
we kind of have to acknowledge that.
Yeah, like it almost feels like Brett Veach is sitting there going, we just got to steal at 32. This is awesome. This guy fell in our laps just like we wanted all along. But you never stop to think, why was he available at 32 if he's as good as they say, or if this injury isn't as big of a concern?
True, yeah.
And it was a weak tackle class too.
Yeah. And I think that if he was healthy, again, he's going top 5. But if I have to just grade the pick, I'm not going to give it an A. I think that this is something that if you reevaluate this in 2 years and he's healthy and you're starting left tackle, it's an A+. It is absolutely a great pick. Right now, with the injury history, with, all of the cloud of, scariness surrounding him, I think you got to give it a C+. Give that pick a C+, just because it's not good.
It's not bad.
It's not bad. You'd pass, Josh. You would pass with a C+.
Yep. No, I agree. I think that's what I would put it at too. But we spent enough time on Josh Simmons. Again, I think both of us have made our feelings about him very clear on our respective channels. But in the second round, the Kansas City Chiefs would end up picking Tennessee defensive tackle Omar Norman Lot, pick 2, 63rd overall. I actually called this one whenever I was watching in the Buffalo Wild Wings. I said, I think it's going to be Omar Norman Lot. You knew the Chiefs had to come out of this draft with at least one defensive tackle, and I really like the one that they got. And it feels weird to say, I think I'm going against the consensus here, because it feels like a lot of people on Twitter specifically were not huge fans. A lot of the Chiefs analysts, the guys at KCSN, not very high on Omar Norman Lot. I get the concerns because he's not super athletic, and he also did not play that many snaps at Tennessee. There's some concern about like what he looked like against high-end competition, but here's what it comes down to for me. Highest pass rush win rate among all defensive tackles in the entire class. He did have an elite explosiveness grade in his RAS score. He's explosive. And to me, he fills a very specific role, what the Chiefs are trying to find, and it's that pass rushing threat at defensive tackle to replace Tershawn Wharton, who left in free agency. That's what this pick is, and I'm fine with that. They needed to find a guy like that, and I've been saying for years they need to find a plus pass rusher to put next to Chris Jones in the middle. I think Tershawn Wharton kind of became that this past season, but obviously he ended up cashing in the offseason, and he was too expensive for the Chiefs to bring back. And I see actually a lot of similarities between a guy like Tershawn Wharton and Omar Norman Lot, and I like this pick a lot, and I think it fills an exact need for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, and Josh, I want to ask you, when was the last time the Chiefs spent a significant investment at defensive tackle in the draft?
It's been a long time. I think like Derek Nottie was like the highest they've taken one since Beach has been the GM.
He a 3rd round pick?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. 3rd round pick.
Which for a 3rd round pick, he actually lived up to every expectation. Like he played for a long time here. Now he wasn't great, but at the same time, he was a starter. Like he played for a long time here. I don't really get the Omar Norman Lot hate. Like I reacted to this pick, and when I saw his name got announced, I was pretty pumped up. Like I was really excited about him. And I had someone say in my comment section, like, wow, like that reaction for Omar Norman Lot, like clearly you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, dude, highest pass rush win rate among defensive tackles. Like, yeah, he might not, have the, I guess the athleticism as the kid from Toledo, but at the same time, like I saw results. The numbers say that he was a productive defensive tackle. And why are we going to overthink this?
Yeah, he's efficient at what he does. And I just think you look at that pass rush win rate and you say, okay, get him next to Chris Jones ASAP. And I think it'll work.
Yeah. And hey, even if he's Derek Nottie, it's a good pick.
I think, like I said, he fills an exact need. He's what the Chiefs needed there. I like it. I give it an A, honestly. I like it a lot.
I'd probably give it. It's so difficult because, like, what are we judging? Like, if he comes out next year and has a sack, but he's just a run stuffer, like, is it still an A? So I'm going to give it a B+, just because I think there is some uncertainty, but I like the pick a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of upside there, and I love his game. I think the fact that he didn't play that many snaps at Tennessee is honestly a nice thing because it means he has less wear and tear on him coming into the league. So I'm cool with that, man. I like the pick. There's not too much more to say. But right after that, Michael, the Kansas City Chiefs picked almost really back-to-back, but they ended up beefing up the trenches again, taking Louisville defensive end Ashton Gelotti, 66th overall. So, I like him a lot. And he wasn't someone that I was super high on, like coming into the draft and coming into round 2. But the more that I learn about him, the more that I like him. First of all, he is a very good athlete. He's a little bit undersized, but you know what? I think this is the kind of guy that Steve Spagnuolo maybe has shied away from in the past as far as the physical profile. And I'm glad to see him leaning into it a little bit. Like, you look at Ashton Gelotti's build and his athleticism, he's closer to a Joshua Uche than like a George Karlaftis in that regard. And I think the Chiefs needed to utilize someone like that, a fastball. I always call it the fastball. I think Steve Spagnuolo needs his fastball on that defensive line, and I think Ashton Gelotti could be that. He plays at 1,000 miles per hour. He almost kind of reminds me a little bit of like an Emmanuel Ogbah. That's kind of who he reminds me of when I watch him play. But I think, the Chiefs, again, needed to come out of this draft, I think, with at least one edge. And combine this, Michael, with the Omar Norman Lot pick. And the Chiefs look as deep on the defensive line as they have in a really long time. And I think they've gotten a lot younger as well. You got Chris Jones, who's the centerpiece, but you also have George Karlaftis, Ashton Gelotti, Charles Omenihu, Omar Norman Lot, FAU. And like FAU, I have zero expectations for him, but like, if he takes a step, cool, even better. But at least, right now at worst, he's depth right there. You still have Mike Dana. I think the Chiefs are still lacking that true like number 2 guy next to Chris Jones. Maybe some of you already consider George Karlaftis to be that. But I think they just have a lot of guys, though, that they can throw at you that they really like. And maybe, who knows, Ashton Gelotti could emerge as that number 2 guy eventually.
Well, I'll tell you what, if I'm Felix, I'm not feeling great. If I'm Felix, I'm sick, because this is a guy that I think right away is a rotational pass rusher, and Felix couldn't get in the rotation. So I do like this pick a lot. I think the expectation should be for him to be at least a rotational guy. I don't expect him to be the starter, but like, he's going to get snaps with Charles Omenihu's injury history and, guys getting banged up, Felix underperforming. He's going to get a shot. So I'd give it a B+, maybe even an A-. Like, that's how good this pick is. And I'll be very interested to see how his athleticism translates to the NFL and how that's going to look on this defense. When you mentioned it, like, this isn't the athletic profile that Steve Spagnuolo usually goes for. So it'll be very interesting to see how he uses him.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think I give it a B+, but I like it. I think it's pretty similar to Omar Norman Lot. I think he's a high floor player that's going to come in and help rather immediately. Then Michael, and with their next pick, the Kansas City Chiefs took, I think this was one of the more interesting picks of the draft, but they ended up taking Cal cornerback Null Williams, 85th overall, also in the 3rd round. So, I think when I saw this pick, I went, okay, we didn't really need a cornerback, but it almost kind of reminded me of the Jaden Hicks pick last year, where it's like they didn't need a safety. They didn't absolutely need a safety. Well, for them in a way where they said, this guy's too good to pass up on, because they traded up for him, right? If I'm not mistaken. They also traded up for Null Williams. And that means they like him a lot. Now, if I'm not mistaken, though, was this the pick where they traded the Joe Thuney 2026 4th round pick?
I don't remember.
I think it is. I think this is the one where they gave up the Joe Thuney 2026 4th round pick to move up 10 spots, which that trade to me, Michael, the actual trade to move up gets an F, because giving up a 2026 4th, you basically traded Joe Thuney to move up 10 spots in the 3rd round. That's not a good trade. I think you could have moved up for way cheaper. But anyway, the actual player, though, I like him a lot. First of all, prevents even further any chance of Najee Johnson seeing the field, right, as a cornerback or anything other than special teams. That's a plus. You already added Christian Fulton this offseason, but I think getting more talent in that room, just having a solid rotation of guys, that's a good thing, because we saw what happened when this cornerback depth got tested last year and they had to resort to those other options. It was ugly, Michael. Their pass defense took a major dip. But Null Williams, he's not an elite athlete, but he's a good athlete, but he's a big physical press corner. That's what Steve Spagnuolo likes. Dave Merritt just needs a little bit of talent to work with, and then he'll turn these guys into studs. I think the same will happen for Null Williams. And what I really like about him too, relative to what the Chiefs already have on rosters, he had 7 interceptions last season at Cal. He has really good ball skills. I've said for years the Chiefs DBs lack ball skills, but Null Williams brings that. And he's the type of cornerback that's going to take some risks to try and rack up those interceptions, a little bit like a Marcus Peters. And, you look at the speed and his RAS. I mean, he doesn't have great long speed. He's probably a guy that might get deep a couple times or get beat deep a couple times here or there, but he's going to make up for it by creating more turnovers for this defense, I think.
Well, Josh, I'll tell you what, I love this pick. I think that Null Williams is someone that can fight, not for a starter job right away, but who knows? Like, if he can translate his skills from college to the NFL, like, yeah, you sign Christian Fulton, but at the same time, like, if Noah Williams is better, they're going to play Noah Williams. And like you said, this basically ensures that Najee Johnson isn't even going to see the field unless a catastrophic injury happens. But I like the pick a lot. Like, yeah, the Chiefs didn't need a cornerback, but I think that the player itself, it's really good. I would give it an A. Like, maybe that's a little high, but I think that this is someone that has all of the makeup to be the next great Chiefs corner. Like, I feel like this is the guy that Dave Merritt says, yeah, I want this guy. And he turns out to be great. The third round corner, this just seems to be what the Chiefs do, and I'm not going to doubt it on this one.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly said. I think I'll give it a B-. I'd give it a little bit of a higher grade, but I think that giving up the Joe Thuney to move up 10 spots, that knocks it down just a little bit for me. I think that was bad trade value. But then, Michael, after that, in the 4th round of the NFL draft, this is my favorite pick of the NFL draft. I have a feeling it might be yours, but the Kansas City Chiefs take Utah State wide receiver Jaylen Royals at pick 133. And I think this one's already kind of being regarded as like the steal of the draft. And I know we say that a lot with a lot of guys, and every fan of every team thinks they got the steal of the draft. I think the Chiefs actually got the steal of the draft. The fact that this guy was available at 133, most saw him as like a 2nd round pick. And in mock drafts, Michael, he was like that fun guy that we would take. And we said, it would be awesome if they got him, but it's probably not going to happen. They're not going to take a wide receiver that early. So that basically takes us out of the running. They get him in the 4th round. And a guy who had the most plays of 50 yards or more over the past 2 seasons in FBS. And that's even with missing most of the season last year. He's big. He's explosive. He's an alpha wide receiver, can play on the outside, bigger body, muscular build, gets open. He was bullying dudes at the Senior Bowl. I love this pick, and I think now adding him with Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, that's a hell of a top 4, and he also gives you insurance in case any of those guys are to miss time next year, which I think was what a lot of Chiefs fans were concerned about and why they felt the Chiefs needed to come out of this draft with another wide receiver. I think they may have gotten the best wide receiver value in this draft at pick 133.
It's so funny.
A+. I don't think I'll just go ahead and say it right now. A+ is the grade I give it.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because at the Senior Bowl, he was killing the Bills' 1st round pick. Like, he was killing the cornerback from Kentucky. And so it's like, man, we're going to continue to see that, happen in the NFL. No, getting Jaylen Royals in the 4th round is legitimately a draft steal. I don't know how the heck he was available at pick 133. It doesn't make sense to me. This is an A+. It is the easiest A+ that I've ever given out. Just the value in this pick, Josh, is an A. And when you combine the fact that he has 10 receptions of 50+ yards in the last 2 seasons, this is a guy that you can, if he's your wide receiver 3, you are doing something right. And so I love this pick. I think it's an A+. And I think this is a guy that got compared a lot to Rashee Rice. Josh, if we've got another Rashee Rice on this team, the Chiefs wide receiver core is going to be great again. Like, this is what we've wanted. Explosiveness, the downfield threat. We got that with Jaylen Royals. And the best part is his name. Those Royals Chiefs jerseys are going to go crazy. I've already got one ordered.
Especially if Royals wears number 85, right?
Oh, man.
I think that's what everyone's hoping for. Royals 85 on the back of the Chiefs jersey. Now,
That'd be nuts.
I think though, like you said, he's similar to Rashee Rice, but I think he's a lot more capable of playing outside wide receiver. We know Rashee Rice mainly eats out of the slot, and having that combination, and that's not even mentioning Worthy and Brown. I'm super excited. I think, this is an offense that struggled to score points the past couple of years. We saw Mahomes struggle. They're giving him more weapons and an explosive deep threat. That's exactly what they needed, but also a bigger guy that can make some tough contested catches, can give you some play it outside. There's nothing to dislike about it. So I think we're both in agreement there. A+. Now, before we get to the Chiefs' last couple picks from this draft, Michael, I want to talk about a new app that's coming out next football season, and that is Penalty Verdict. Guys, this is going to be a tool that you're going to want to have when it comes to discourse next season, because we know as Kansas City Chiefs fans that everyone is always at our throats saying that the rest of the reason that the Kansas City Chiefs win games. But if you want to disprove them, you're going to want to have this app. Let's check it out.
Whether you're sick of seeing your team constantly get screwed over by the refs, tired of hearing about how your team only wins because of the refs, or simply just desire fair play and accountability, then Penalty Verdict is the perfect app for you. Penalty Verdict is a new app that allows football fans to vote on penalty calls in real time on both NFL and college football games. With Penalty Verdict, you'll be able to engage with a community of football fans who desire accuracy and transparency in officiating. And not only does Penalty Verdict allow you to vote on and discuss penalties in real time, but you'll also have access to data and statistics on specific referees. And you can even see what your favorite team's win-loss record is with that referee heading the crew. You can use this information to make educated guesses on who's going to win each game, and earn even more XP, which can be used to place wagers and climb up leaderboards on Penalty Verdict. Unlock the next dimension of sports by engaging with real-time polling of referees, players, and teams. And lastly, view data-driven insights to have informed discussions about the games. While Penalty Verdict is still in the development phase, we would love to hear your guys' feedback on what features you want to see in the app for next football season. Invite your friends to join and share Penalty Verdict today, and follow Penalty Verdict on social media.
So yeah, guys, that is Penalty Verdict. The link is going to be in the description down below if you want to get on the wait list for that, and they really want to hear your guys' feedback on what features you want to see on the app for next football season. So be sure to check that out. I want to see you guys on there next football season when it officially launches. But Michael, back to the Kansas City Chiefs 2025 draft class. So in the 5th round, the Kansas City Chiefs traded up once again to grab Oregon linebacker Jeffrey Bosa, 156 overall. Now, when they made this pick, I feel like a lot of Chiefs Kingdom felt the same way, where don't dislike the player, but where the hell is the running back? The Chiefs need a running back out of this draft. They waited until the very end to take one. We'll talk about him in a minute, obviously. But Oregon linebacker Jeffrey Bosa, I think, after letting the draft soak in and getting to pay a little bit more attention to him, I like this pick. I think he's a high floor, high upside linebacker, good athlete, instinctive, can play the run, can play the pass. And I don't expect them to really do that much in year one. I think he'll be mainly special teams in year one. But I think this is someone that they plan on being the eventual replacement for Drew Tranquill on this roster. What do you think, Michael?
Yeah, I think that you saw the Chiefs in this draft really go after players that they thought could be contributors, not only in 2026, but 2027 and beyond. And so I think that Jeffrey Bosa is a player that's probably not going to get much run in 2025, but that's okay. The Chiefs are in a very luxurious position where they don't have to go out and find him in the 5th round to be the starter, right away. So I like the pick. I think that most of us probably would have rather seen a running back at the time. We were all just worried that they weren't going to get a running back, but they did end up getting one, which we'll talk about here in a minute. So yeah, I think that there's going to be people who don't like the pick just because of that. There were 2 Kansas kids on the board, whether it was DJ Giddens or Devin Neal. And so I think that a lot of local people are like, dang, like the Chiefs could have gotten one of those guys. But I think the Chiefs were smart here to get someone on defense in a very deep defensive draft class that could play some meaningful snaps on special teams this year and maybe take a bigger role, in the future.
Yeah, and I think also Just because the defense was the strong side of the ball last year and you brought mostly everyone back doesn't mean you shouldn't still be trying to add more depth and more guys for the future. Because like the reason why the Chiefs didn't take a safety in this draft is because they took Jaden Hicks last year, and when they lost Justin Reed, they were already prepared for it. This is another move where I think you're preparing for the future, continuing to stack young depth on defense, guys waiting in the wings so that when Drew Tranquil maybe gets cut, or if they don't sign or re-sign Leo Chenal to an extension, you already have someone waiting in the wings. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse in the NFL. And I think the Chiefs still managed to get better on defense in this draft. I give this draft pick a B plus though, and I think they got decent value again. Michael, I don't recall. Did you give your grade for this pick?
I didn't. I'll go ahead and I'll give him a B. And I'll give him a B just because I think there is an unknown factor, but at the same time, like, I think you can pretty much pencil him in for a special teams role in 25, and I think that's good enough.
For sure. I agree. And then, Michael, with their last pick of the NFL draft, the Kansas City Chiefs select SMU running back Bashard Smith. Pick 228 overall. Finally, the panic is over after making this pick. They got a running back. I really was scared there for a minute, Michael, that the Chiefs were going to roll with what they had in 2025. And I always had that fear in the back of my head once they re-signed Kareem Hunt, because when they re-signed Kareem Hunt, by then they had already signed Elijah Mitchell. Pacheco's obviously on this roster. Carson Steele is still under contract here. It's like, well, I mean, someone's going to have to get kicked off most likely if they draft a running back. Maybe they just don't draft one. Maybe they like what they have, and the Chiefs are going to have the worst running back room in the NFL. Because I don't think it can be understated, man. Because like I kind of was like freaking out on Twitter when they hadn't picked a running back yet, and I put out a tweet that had upset a lot of people because I said, really, I think it's a disservice to Patrick Mahomes to not have a running back that truly threatens defenses. Because, guys, one of the reasons this offense has struggled over the past few years is because teams run too high on us eternally because we don't have a running back that matters. And I don't know if Bashard Smith is going to matter. I don't know if he's going to matter as a rookie in the way that we want. But I'll say this. I like him a lot because even though he's not the most athletic, he brings one element to the table that we all want to see: speed. Speed and explosiveness. This running back room needed some juice. They needed some speed. They needed an explosive play guy. Bashard Smith had a lot of long runs at SMU last year. I know he was like pretty high up there and plays of 15 yards or more, runs of 15 yards or more. But what I really like about Bashard Smith, Michael, is that he's a natural receiver out of the backfield, being a wide receiver converted into a running back. He's got that natural receiving ability. You can tell by watching him that he has some of those wide receiver moves still in his arsenal when it comes to making guys miss in the open field. He has an underrated spin move. I really love his spin move. He's fast. I like the pick, and I think as far as picking a running back this late in the draft, the Kansas City Chiefs probably got the best guy they could have gotten.
Oh, yeah, and there's a reason that they traded up to go get him. It'll be very interesting because the Chiefs have kind of spoiled our expectations with seventh-round running backs. Like finding Pacheco, it was kind of a diamond in the rough, and I think that we all want Bashard Smith to be the next Pacheco, and actually his coaches compared him to an Isaiah Pacheco, which is kind of interesting how the Chiefs found a Jaylen Royals who got comped to Rashee Rice, and then Bashard Smith, who was Isaiah Pacheco. They clearly have a type, and they're all SMU guys. But I do think that it'll be interesting to see where he fits in this running back room, because right now it's a crowded room. There's 4 guys in there with Bashard Smith, and that's without Carson Steele. And hopefully Carson Steele doesn't make the team. That's what I'm rooting for, but you never know. Like maybe we see him make the team, and then you kind of have to just figure it out from there. But I think that the athleticism that Smith brings is something that we've been waiting for. Like, no one in this running back room truly has speed, and he ran a 4.3 at the combine. So I think that speed is something that the Chiefs could definitely use. And, you know, with his ability to catch the ball, because he was a wide receiver, and then he transferred to SMU and then converted to a running back. But maybe you kind of line him up as a wide receiver, and then you got another, wide receiver out there. I
mean, we could use a receiving threat out of the backfield, absolutely. Oh, yeah. And like Kareem Hunt was their best receiving back, and he's like 40 years old. So I like getting a young younger prospect to be your receiver out of the backfield that can run real routes and get open. Like I said, you kind of watch him play, and he looks like a wide receiver playing the running back position. But I think that's also interesting because it means there's probably a higher ceiling for him than we know, because he's still kind of learning the position. But he looks pretty damn good for being a converted wide receiver into a running back. Now, my main gripe with the pick, nothing to do with the player, but the thing is, I think we all wanted the Chiefs to come out of this draft with a running back that we think can start for them. I'm not sure Bashard Smith is going to come out here and start from day one, at least not for the first half of the season. It might be like an Isaiah Pacheco rookie year situation where at like a halfway point through the season, you're saying he has to be the starter. He just outperformed everyone else. I don't know if Bashard Smith is the guy right now. He's just a guy that helps, and that's fine. That's better than nothing. But I really wanted the Chiefs to come out of the draft with the guy at running back. I think they had a chance to get one like a Damian Martinez from Miami or a DJ Giddens from K-State or someone like that. But Bashard Smith is interesting. Like you said, they traded up for him. And I think maybe the logic here with the Chiefs is, well, it's a deep running back class, so we're not going to spend a super high pick on one, because that just naturally means more talented guys are going to get pushed down, and there will be more of them available later in the draft with it being a deep class.
Yeah. And hey, it's a gamble, but the Chiefs have taken a couple of those gambles, and yeah, some of them haven't worked out, but some of them have. And, I trust Brett Veach with 7th-round running backs. I think he's earned the benefit of the doubt.
For sure. So I give that pick a B as well. I'm really excited to see him out there with the other running backs. But, Michael, that wraps up the draft class for the Kansas City Chiefs. So that brings me to my final question for you. But what grade would you give the Kansas City Chiefs draft class overall?
There's been some Chiefs fans that are saying that this is an A+. I'm not going to go that far. But at the same time, they didn't have a bad draft. They found very good players. I like that they loaded up on defense. And they got, I think, they only got 2 offensive players, but they also got 2 offensive players that I think are, good
3 if you
players.
count Simmons, but we don't expect him to play next year.
But, you got 2 skill positions on offense. And I think that we both agree they needed a wide receiver and they needed a running back, and they got both of those guys. And they also needed left tackles. They got him. So I would give it a B+. I think that's a fair grade. But over time, let's just say that Josh Simmons hits and he's a top 5 left tackle, a top 10 left tackle, you're up to an A. And if one of those other guys hits, if Jaylen Royals ends up being the guy that we think he can be, it's an A+.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the same as you. I'm going to go B+. And obviously, you could say this about every single draft. If every guy pans out, it's an A+. I mean, obviously. But looking at the value that they got, B+, I'd say. I still am not thrilled with the Josh Simmons pick. I don't think it's some home run. We're going to have to see how that one goes. Jeffrey Bosa is probably not going to really give you much next year. Bashard Smith helps, but maybe not the guy. But I think those 3 picks kind of in the middle of the draft, Omar Norman Lot, Ashton Gelotti, Jaylen Royals, that really is what is carrying the grade for me. I really love that group of selections from the Kansas City Chiefs to build this pass rush up even more and to get more explosive in the passing game. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And hopefully these guys end up turning into great NFL players and the Chiefs dynasty continues. Absolutely. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up this video there, guys. That is our thoughts on the Kansas City Chiefs 2025 NFL draft class. We definitely want to hear from you guys in the comments what your thoughts are on the Chiefs draft, what grade you would give it. But with all that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this. Make sure you check out my work on showmefootball.com, arrowheadaddict.com for more. Last but not least, follow me on Twitter at showmefb. And then, Michael, before we go, where can the people find you? You guys can find me on YouTube at KC Sports Report. Been cranking out a bunch of shorts and some long-form content. You can also find me on Instagram, KC_Sports Report. I'm trying to post a little bit more often there. Most of it's just the shorts that you guys see on YouTube. So KC Sports Report is the one-stop shop. There you guys have it. That'll all be in the description down below. That's all we got for this one. We'll see you all in the next one. And as always, go Chiefs.